welcome to the Ophthall knowledge series on infection control and OT design. I think we don't need an introduction for this webinar because our group has been one of the most active groups over the last 1 week. I started this group on Saturday, and within Monday we had 513 participants in the group, and there are almost 10-20 doctors who are also waiting to join the group. So which shows the importance of the subject of infection control and OT designing. And it was very interesting to see the lot of questions which are happening on the group. And I thought it's important for us to get educated on this most important aspect of infection control and designing the OT. Basically, because what we understood was everybody has their own way of action and way of designing and way of process, which we always try to defend. The idea of this webinar or CME is not to say that whatever you're doing is not right, but to understand what are the standard practices and then trying to incorporate them into our practice. So that's the whole idea of the program which we have designed. And thank you everybody for the active participation in the group and also willing to join on a Sunday evening. So Dr. Sanjay Kulkarni and Dr. Chimote, I added them on the group, though they were not ophthalmologists, but we thought it's better to have the experts inside. So the expert opinion is what is more important to have. So I think there is no need of introduction for both of them. Dr. Sanjay Kulkarni, can you put your slide, sir, like the introduction slide, so it will be easy.
I have to search for it actually.
Okay, no problem, sir. I think I will.
You have it, sir. I've sent it to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Dr. Kulkarni is a microbiologist, and he is a microbiologist and an infection control specialist, and with more than 25 years of experience in hospital infection control procedures. Dr. Kulkarni works with a lot of hospitals and guides them on setting up the correct infection control procedure, and has experience of working with more than 150 hospitals covering varied specialties. And he's also the committee member and contributing author to guidelines for implementation of Kayakalp program of the Government of India, and has given a lot of talks on infection control in hospitals, including our Ophthall practice development group. And this is the, I think, third program where Dr.
Yes.
Kulkarni has been talking with our group of ophthalmologists. And he has also authored a chapter on infection control in textbook of orthopedics by Dr. J.S. Kulkarni. So that I think more than this introduction, whatever he has been sharing over the last 1 week in the group has been very important to show the expertise and experience which he has in that field of infection control. Dr. Chimote again needs no introduction. He has been helping a lot of our group members. Sir has been very, I used to give his number to a lot of doctors who ask questions because I am not an expert in that. And Dr. Chimote is an anesthetist who has taken a new course of this thing into the hospital planning, and he has been instrumental in designing and developing more than 7,000 hospital beds all over India. And he has expertise in OT designing and as per NABS standards and hospital planning, and also the patient flow management and all. Sir has been an expert in these topics. So today's webinar, or I don't know how to call it, let us because I don't like this word webinar, because webinar has been, people have been averse to that webinar.
No, I think a panel discussion or a Q&A session would be a better choice.
Yeah, so we will call it as a friendly discussion or informal panel discussion where we maybe we should imagine that we are sitting in a round table and discussing about whatever doubts we are having. So maybe this is a upgradation of the WhatsApp, because whatever we discuss in WhatsApp, I think there is nothing which can replace a direct talking or a physical meeting. So there are lots of questions. We will start off with the questions, and then Dr. Chimote will answer the questions on the design part and OT designing part, and Dr. Kulkarni will answer questions on the infection control part. And if there might be overlaps, I think when there is an overlap, both of you them can answer the question. And if you in the audience, if you have any questions in between, please type your questions on the chat box so we can take them rather than opening up to the entire audience. And towards the end of the program, you can also come in live and ask your questions. And thank you for joining on a Sunday night. I think it shows the importance of the topic. So basically, we were initially concerned if we can have this on a Sunday night. But seeing the response, I think it's really good to have so many people attending on a Sunday night. And I'm sure many of the other members will also watch it on the YouTube channel later on. And so there are around 25 questions which have been floated in the group. So we will start off one by one and then go to the chat questions. I think this is a question which even I had. What is the frequency of culture of the OT? And because many times we just get it and culture happens only when there is an infection. So what is the recommendation of how many times we should culture? Maybe we can start off before starting the OT, like a new OT, how many cultures and how it's documented, and which lab has to do that. Is there like any accredited labs where we have to do the testing? And once the OT is running, how many times what is the frequency at which we should culture? And what is like one culture, how many times like is it done on 3 consecutive days or all those things? So I think Dr. Sanjay Kulkarni can take that question.
Yeah. So regarding OT swabs, first I would like to mention that the sensitivity of the swab test is very less actually. And if you see in the Western countries, they don't do routine swabbing anymore. Even in the 4th edition of NABH full standards, it was mentioned that environmental sampling does not mean taking swabs. So in my opinion, swabs are mainly required just to monitor your cleaning and disinfection efficacy. Absence of an organism in a swab does not mean that the room is sterile. There is always something in the room because you cannot apply sterilization methods to an entire room. Okay. So for a new theater, which is any theater which has undergone civil construction recently or renovations or anything, you need to have 3 cycles of cleaning and disinfection and swabs. That is what is medico-legally required in most of the cases. Okay. And with 3 cycles, the cleaning also becomes better. So new theaters, what you can do in the morning, you can start cleaning, fumigate at night, take the swabs next morning. So if you take this as one cycle, we have 3 consecutive cycles like this. So the whole process, the up to the reporting, takes about 6 or 7 days. Okay. So that time we have to factor into the starting date of the OT. Okay. For OT which is regularly running, usually swabs are done once a month. Okay. And in an ophthalm OT, there are some sites which you should always sample, like the OT table, your microscope head or body, then a sterile trolley, okay, any other equipment that you may be using, like a suction machine or any other machine, like Paco machines, for example, the floor and any one of the walls. So minimum 6 to 7 swabs will form one set. Okay. And this can be done after your detailed cleaning and disinfection of the OT, that usually once a month or twice a month, depending on the load. Okay. So minimum these swabs should be taken and they should be sent to a microbiology laboratory. So ideally an MD micro should report these samples and those reports should be filed because that is the evidence that you are doing the test and the results are okay. Okay. So if you go on having consistently negative swabs, which is very common I see across hospitals, check out your process, how the sampling is done, whether the swabs reach the laboratory on time, the laboratory processing, whether it is okay. You can discuss with the microbiologist. So make sure that the negative result is really negative, okay? Because there are a lot of factors which affect the culture sensitivity test, okay? then if you get a positive swab, what to do? That is often a question which I find many people don't know. Okay, so depends on what grows, how much grows, and where it grows from. So blindly, I find people, anything comes in the swabs, they reclean, refumigate the OT compulsorily. So many times that is not necessary. So you can talk with the microbiologist, and what I usually follow, I would like to just share with all of you all. If you get a organism which is usually non-pathogenic, like a coagulase negative staph, which is common on the skin, many times it can come as a skin contaminant while collection of the swabs or while processing in the laboratory. And if it is coming from just one site or maybe a couple of sites, then you can just clean and disinfect those surfaces and go ahead with your procedures. On the other hand, if you get this same organism from multiple sites, then definitely something has gone wrong in the cleaning and disinfection procedure. So then you definitely need to re-clean and refumigate or re-disinfect the OT. Okay. Secondly, there should never be any gram-negative organisms grown in any of the swabs at any time. They should never grow any fungus. Okay. So at the max, what is allowable is common skin flora. That can be there in 1 or 2 swabs. Okay. Anything else, definitely you need to look into the process and just review it completely and repeat the whole cleaning and disinfection and the swabbing procedure. And this, if this happens, if you have to repeat the cleaning and everything, that also should be documented in your OT cleaning and fumigation register, because that is an evidence that you are checking, you are monitoring, and you are taking steps for prevention. Many hospitals try to hide the positive swabs, which I think is actually counterproductive. Okay, so let it come on record. Swab was positive. We have taken this action. Then we have repeated the swabs. It is negative. Then after that, we have started the cases. If you can demonstrate this cycle, it will definitely be useful medico legally also. Okay, that is a very good evidence. Okay, so I think that answers the question, sir. Frequency, whom should, where to do, what to do, and who should do it.
Yeah, and is there like any regulatory requirement that they have to do once a month? Because I see
No.
many hospitals don't doing it once a month.
Yeah. There is no regulation, there is no law, there is no reference, because in the Western countries, they have stopped doing routine swabbings in the last 25, 30 years. They do it only when there's an outbreak. And that is the indication of most of the guidelines. If you have an outbreak, then you have to do multiple swabs of the environment or trace how the things have moved, how the organism has moved, or to find out the reservoirs and the places where it is there. Otherwise, routinely it is not done. So there are virtually no studies or no regulatory things on this. But for NABH, usually they expect once a month swabs to be done. And whenever you disinfect, that's what I suggest to hospitals. Whenever you fumigate, after that you should do a swab to monitor that fumigation efficacy. Okay. Again, keep in mind, negative swab does not mean there is nothing in the OT. It is always there. Something is always there. Some organism always there. That's why you have to continue following the other infection prevention protocols, even if your swabs are negative.
And is there like any specific areas like the OT table, the AC? Yeah.
OT table, basically anything that comes in contact with the patient and your sterile things. So that means your microscope, your table, the sterile instrument trolley. These three are compulsory. Then the floor, any one wall, phaco machine. And these are the minimum. So these 7 swabs are the minimum. You can add any more other equipment you may have in the OT.
So any microbiology lab we can give.
Yes, sir.
Any microbiology lab is fine. It's not like we have to go.
Yeah. Any MD micro can do. Yes.
Biology.
Okay. Any MD. Even pathologists also do these tests, but medical legally now it is better to have an MD micro report these investigations.
And before we set up somebody starting a new OT, like how does an infection control specialist play a role? Like, can we engage an infection control specialist while setting up a new OT? And
yes, definitely.
So how does it make the process better?
Actually, these inputs begin right at the drawing stage. I think Dr. Chimoti might be knowing this.
Yes.
So
yes.
from
They
the
actually
itself, we include this.
Yes, they actually begin at the drawing design stage itself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in India, we are not yet up to the mark as far as these kinds of inputs are concerned.
The
But
awareness.
yes, these are absolutely mandatory. And there was one more point that I would like to make about when you are starting up a new OT. I mean, definitely the swabs and all those cultures are a part of that. But I would urge everybody to go in for a validation as per 14644 IS standards, where obviously you are doing the cultures, but for the cultures to be effective, one absolutely important component is going to be whether your air changes are happening, proper air changes, number of air changes. So validation will take care of all those things: air velocities, quality of air which is being achieved, particulate matters, how many particles are being found, then air velocities, air changes, and all those other things. Now, this again is absolutely important, because that is going to tell you whether your further infection control practices are going to be aided by your own systems that you have set up.
Yes.
And depending on your workload, you should do this validation at least once every 6 months if you have a very high load, or at least once a year if you have a moderate to low load.
Yeah. Sir, can I add something here?
Yes, yes, yes. Please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, so validation of the laminar flow system is definitely a must, like sir said. So even if the OT has that, then that has to be done before you start using the OT. That is mandatory, because basically reason is the systems are quite complicated. They're very sophisticated systems. So we need to see the air quality before you start using the OT. And speaking of air, along with OT swabs, there is one more monitoring test called as an air sampling test, which should be done in the theater. Okay. So if you have a HEPA filter system providing filtered air to your theater, then air sampling is one of the monitoring tests that we do. Okay, to find out the quality of the air. So when you look at particle counts, we are looking at viable and non-viable particles both. Okay, and the total number of different sizes of particles, that is what decides the class of your theater. So that's the physical part. What we are interested from the infection point of view is, are there any bacteria in that air coming in, and if so, how many are there? Okay, so for that we usually advise what is called as air sampling. So there are basically two methods: one using an air sampler, which is of course ideal, and another one which we expose a culture plate. I think some of the surgeons may be doing this in their OTs. It's also called as a settle plate test. Okay. So for these tests, there are usually cutoff limits in the guidelines, usually design guidelines. So on the OT table, if you have a laminar flow HEPA filter system providing air over your surgical table, then the amount of colonies should be 0 or 1 per cubic meter of air. Anything above that should be investigated. Or if you get any pathogen like a staph aureus growing in the plate, even if one colony is there, that has to be investigated. And I have come across these sources in quite a few theaters. For example, those of you who have a laminar flow system, there is something called as a diffuser grill. Okay. So I find in some of 2 or 3 theaters, there were continuously some organisms coming into the air. And when we got the diffuser grill cleaned, because what had happened was the people had replaced the HEPA filters, and when they fitted back the grill, they didn't wipe it with a disinfectant. So there are organisms coming into the air. So that is why we have to be very careful about validation of the OT system before we start using the OT. So like sir said, mandatory validation of the system should be done every 6 months or 1 year, because without that, you are never sure whether the system is providing the proper quality of air. And that air is passing directly to the patient. So if you have a usually for a standard laminar flow system, there should not be anything between the source of the air and your surgical site. But here we have a huge body of the microscope the head of the microscope, which has a lot of cracks and crevices. This is not possible to clean properly. So that is one of the risk factors of having such a system in ophthalm. So we need a different design actually for ophthalmology, not the standard like what we have for general OT or a cardiac OT. That sort of design may be risky for an ophthalm. Okay, I have not come across any infections directly attributable to this, but theoretically this is a risk factor. Okay, so air sampling also should be done in addition to OT swabs.
Actually, if I can make a small comment there.
Yes, sir.
That particular episode which you highlighted, it's actually not the diffuser grill, but the way these HEPA cassettes are fitted into the plenum. What usually happens, if there is no, if the seal around the HEPA is the cassettes is not proper, air bypasses HEPA and comes down. And this air, since it has bypassed the HEPA, your organisms have come directly into the OT without the HEPA getting a chance to actually catch them.
Yeah, in this
actually, we have a question on the other air quality also. Maybe we will go to the next question.
Yes,
sorry for interrupting. And so basically, the next question is something very common, which we always have, like, what is the basic material to be used for the OT walls, floor, and ceiling? And something similar is like, can we have false ceiling in the OT? If yes, which material, POP or gypsum board? So question is, what are the materials which are available? And I think basically we should also customize it as like a startup OT. It's not because many of the hospitals are not thinking at the level of a modular OT, like somebody just starting up a small OT. What are the basic materials he can use for the wall, floor, and roof, and which is cost effective? Maybe we can consider it at the option of NABH at a later stage, but at least somebody is starting, what can he start off with, rather than that is the question. And I think false ceiling, whether we can have false ceiling in a OT.
Yes, I'll actually go the other way around. I will first list out what ideal way we should be designing and doing the theaters, and then I'll come to some substitutes. Okay, now the first, we can really classify the materials that can be used into 2 or 3 groups. The first one is wall cladding. The second one is your panels of different kinds. And then the third is kind of a wall cladding itself, but what we call as solid surfaces. Now, these are the 3 3 groups of wall materials. Now, let us come to cladding. What can we use to clad the walls? Clad means sticking something directly to the surface of the wall. Now, there you have HGPVC sheets, you have vinyl sheets, and then there is a kind of there is kind of a hybrid material which is usually available, where they are using some backing material upon which you have steel plates. Now, these are wall cladding material. Then what you have is panels made of either stainless steel, powder coated aluminum, or powder coated GI. And then you have solid surfaces like the Korean or tempered glass. Now, these again are the solid surfaces are mounted very close to the wall, not unlike your panels, which have a gap between the wall and the panel which is standing. But these solid surfaces, they are not pasted directly to the wall surface. They have their own frame, which on which they are mounted. So these are your standard wall surfaces which are commonly found in our country. There are some others which are available outside, but let's not go into them since they are not available with us anymore. For your flooring, the most ideal is your conductive vinyl, which is a medical grade vinyl, not the standard vinyl which is available with your furniture guys. These are carbon impregnated medical grade vinyl floorings. So that is your standard material. And false ceiling, again, you can go with the same material that you have used for walls, or then you can use metal false ceiling sheets, which are available from companies like Armstrong.
Yeah.
There again, there are two types of framing which they do. One is where they have a GI frame on which they are just placing those metal sheets. Now, this is something which I will not recommend. They have another, the same material, but in an interlocking format. And when you push the sheet into the frame, it gets locked there. So there is no movement later on. And then the gaps are filled with silicone.
Sealing is important.
So that forms a complete seal. Yes. And it becomes a seamless surface. So these are your standard things which are available. Now, what can you substitute? In my opinion, the only substitute which should be acceptable is vitrified tiles. They stick better. They can be made seamless by using spacers and then filling up the space with proper grout. You can either use a cement grout or you can use a epoxy grout. The same thing goes for flooring. But then there is no such substitute for your ceiling. The cheapest that you can and the most easily available locally is your Armstrong metal plates.
So nowadays we get PVC tiles also for ceiling.
Again, PVC sheets you get. That's what I said. That is the same PVC sheets are used as for false ceiling. There, what we use is a backing of something like bison board, and then the sheets are pasted. So it's not tiles; they are long sheets. Something like.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, I think Dr. Chimote's connection.
Some problem with the net, I think, sir.
Yeah. So maybe we can, if the audience has any comments on the material, maybe you can unmute and please go ahead and ask your question.
Any queries, sir, here?
Yeah. Sir, I had one query, like I have posted in the questions itself. If we are making a new floor, then should we include a copper stripping for that? What sir was telling, conductive vinyl.
Yeah, conductivity is important. If you're using cautery, especially, that becomes important. And if you go for conductive vinyl, then you don't need a separate strip like that.
Okay, but if we are not using a conductive vinyl, then we need to put a. We can use a normal vinyl floor and then use a copper strip to earth it.
Yeah, if you're using cautery, then definitely I think you should have that. It's always safer.
Oh. Will epoxy be a good substitute to vinyl?
Yeah, epoxy or vinyl, either one can be used for the flooring, for the walls also. So comparing epoxy and vinyl, what I find advantage with vinyl is we can do patchwork for maintenance. If an epoxy flooring or a wall layer cracks at the corners or anywhere, we have to redo the entire thing. So maintenance sometimes becomes costly that way. Whereas vinyl, it will be less. You can do only that much patch. Okay? So that is one of the advantages find with vinyl.
So we can go on to the next.
Sorry, my Zoom crashed.
Yeah, I think
no problem.
yeah.
So
you can
I was talking about the ceiling sheets.
PVC sheets, yes.
So PVC sheets is something that we can use. Vinyl will not stay on an inverted surface.
Yeah.
So that is out of question. Then your other options are your panels.
So there was a question about having copper strips on the flooring if you are using tile.
Yes.
So
yes.
I suggested that they should have it if
no. Yes. Even not just cautery. Even your laminar flow will create static charges, and they need to be discharged. So not only copper strips, but the copper strips should be connected to an earthing point.
Yes, that is
and it should be an independent earthing point. It should not be connected to your hospital earthing.
Okay.
It should be a separate earthing pit and a separate earthing point. And the formula is there should be one earthing for every 400 square feet.
Okay.
So if your OT is larger, say 600 square feet or something, or 550 square feet, then you should have two earthing points.
Yes.
And for every OT, there should be an independent earthing.
Okay. Senthil sir? I think we can go to the next question then.
Yeah.
Dr. Senthil sir, are you there? Not responding.
Yeah. The next question is which sterilization indicator should be used?
Okay. So
when and which?
We'll go on to that, sir, sterilization indicators. Yeah. So most of the hospitals we use autoclaves, and in uptime Eto also is quite common. So these are the two basic methods of sterilization. And because all sterilization is a blind process, we need to monitor the various steps of the process. Okay. So when speaking of autoclaves, we have mechanical indicators, and biological. The process is monitored in 3 different ways. So mechanical parameters we use for various autoclave cycles like 121 degrees, the temperature, the pressure, and the time. These are the 3 important parameters. So for every cycle, these mechanical parameters should be documented. What sterilization cycle has been used? Because some items may require a 134-degree cycle, some may require a 121. And many times Paco handpiece manufacturers, they may specify different type of temperature cycle. So documenting the mechanical parameters is the first step. Okay. After that, we have chemical indicators in which there are 6 different types actually, what we call as classes. So generally we use a class 1, which is usually what you call as a signal lock strip or an autoclave tape, commonly available as rolls. Okay. This is applied to each and every item that we autoclave. It's there on the outside of the tray or the drum, and it shows the sterilization date, the expiry date, and the batch number. So these 3 things should always be written on that autoclave tape, so that the person who is going to use it, he should know whether it is within expiry, and the batch number is important when you have a CSSD recall or to identify the patients on which those instruments have been used. Okay. So this is a class 1 chemical indicator for autoclave, mandatory for each and every item that we autoclave. Okay. Next chemical class that we use is generally a class 5 or a class 6 called as integrators or emulators. So these indicators, class 5 and 6, they pass only when more than one parameter required for sterilization is satisfied in that location, right? For example, class 1, what we call as a signal lock or an autoclave tape, it will change color even if it is just exposed to small amount of steam for some period of time. So normal minimum sterilization cycle parameters is 121 degrees for say minimum 15 minutes. So this class 1 will change color even before that. Within 2 or 3 minutes, it will change the color. So it will not indicate sterilization. It indicates only exposure to the steam. Okay, that is all it tells you. Whereas the class 6 indicator will pass only if the proper quality of steam, time, temperature have been maintained in that location where this indicator is placed. Okay. So we usually place these chemical indicators class 5 or 6 inside your instrument sets. Okay. So minimum frequency is once a week for this class 5 or 6. That's the minimum. You can have it every day also if you want. Okay. So what I usually suggest is, where cost is a concern in India, I say minimum once a week, and you rotate it. 1 week we put it into the instrument sets, 1 week we put it into the linen sets, so that we monitor both. Okay. So if you're more want to monitor more intensely, you can do it every day also. Okay. So for autoclaving, these are the two chemical indicators which are important. Apart from these mechanical and chemical indicators, we have what are called as biological indicators, which actually contain bacterial spores, a known number of bacterial spores. Okay. So biological indicators are the gold standard for any sterilization process, whether it's ETO or autoclaving. So these come usually as plastic vials. I think many of you may have seen that. The use frequency, the placement is the same like a class 6 indicator. And these are usually sent to a laboratory after the sterilization cycle is over and they're removed from the tray or the drum. And we get a lab report saying whether the indicator has passed or failed. So if all the bacterial spores are killed, the report will say it has passed. And if something remains back and they grow in the laboratory, then we say the indicator has failed. In that case, this is called as a sterilization failure, which needs investigation. Okay. So for autoclaving, mechanical parameters of temperature, time, and pressure, chemical indicators of class 1 and class 6 or class 5, and the biological indicators. So these are the minimum for monitoring the cycles. Apart from that, if you have a pre-vacuum machine, what is commonly called as a class B autoclave, in which there is a vacuum created at the beginning of the cycle and the end of the cycle, then we need to monitor that vacuum depth also, whether the proper vacuum is created and maintained. So for that, there is something called as a Bovidic test, which is to be done every day morning, the first cycle. So only if that Bovidic test passes, then the machine is used as a routine machine routinely for all the sterilization on that day. So again, this has to be recorded in the autoclave register or logbook or any documentation that you're having. Okay. So secondly, such machines, they have what is called as a leak test, which is usually done once a week. And that is also documented. So if you have a pre-vacuum machine or a class B machine, these two tests are additional. If you have a gravity displacement machine, only the mechanical, chemical, and the biological indicators will be required. Okay, but again, remember, gravity displacement has a lesser quality of sterilization. Pre-vacuum always has a better quality of sterilization, especially for lumen items. So those are the types which are usually recommended. Okay, so coming to the ETO, for ETO, we have similar chemical indicators. The cycle is usually fixed by the vendor. Okay. Now, for ETO, there is a large range of temperature, anywhere between 37 to 56 degrees. And there is no variation or anything like that, unlike the autoclave. Okay. So, depending on the company, you will find that some company may be using 43 degrees as the target temperature. Some may be using 55 degrees. So, find out what is the cycle, what temperature they're using. Around minimum 2 hours of that holding at 100% ETO is required for sterilization. And preferably there should be an aeration cycle following the sterilization cycle so that you can use the material immediately after you take it out of the machine. Okay. So for ETO monitoring, we usually go for chemical and biological indicators. Okay. So chemical, we usually use a class 4 for every ETO cycle. So you can just double pouches in an ETO pouch, the routine pouch on one side plastic, one side paper. So do double packing of the class 4 indicator. That usually comes as a sticker or a strip. Put it in the center of the chamber and run the cycle. This should be done for every cycle. And according to the guidelines, biological indicators are required for every ETO cycle, because basically this is less reliable compared to steam. ETO is after all chemical sterilization using the gaseous form of the liquid. Okay, so chemical sterilization always comes second to steam sterilization. So monitoring is more intense. So ideally, we should be doing biological for every cycle, but again, price is a big constraint in India. So for that also, I usually suggest doing it minimum once a week. At least once a week, test the biological indicators for ETO and maintain the laboratory reports of the indicator as a record. Okay, so these are the minimum sterilization monitoring indicators that should be done for autoclaving and ETO.
Actually, there is one question related to that. How frequently is Bovidic test and biological indicator test to be done for the Class B sterilizer?
Yeah,
How
Bovidic
frequently?
test is done every day. Every day morning, first cycle. Yeah, that is what is ideal. Every day morning, first cycle, Bovidic. That is an empty chamber. Only the Bovidic test indicator or the pack is inside the machine. And then you have to document that, maintain that indicator as in a file. Okay. And biological for autoclave is minimum once a week. And for ETO, it is ideally every cycle.
And with regard to previous question to Dr. Chimote, can we put tiles on the OT wall?
I answered that. I answered that.
Okay. Okay.
I see there is one more related question.
Yes.
The question number 6, whether POP or gypsum can be used. I have answered that also, but I'll repeat, POP and gypsum should not be used in OT.
No, very dangerous, sir.
Very dangerous because it absorbs all the moisture.
And particles get released from that.
Particles get released from gypsum.
Yeah, and related, I see some hospitals having the OT doors as wood. I think even that is not advisable. Wooden OT doors.
Yeah.
So
wooden OT doors are still fine if they are laminated. So no raw wood should be used. If you are using a plywood door or a block door, then it should be covered with a thick laminate.
So I think basically nothing in the OT should absorb any moisture.
Yes.
That is a basic principle.
Yes.
Another, I think, related is, can packed windows with glass be made so that, I think, can you have glass on the OT, sealed glass?
Yes.
For the sun?
Yes. We use what is called a DGU. Okay, double glass unit with vacuum in between. This is what we routinely use for OT windows.
I think it even comes with a curtain between the two glass.
Yes. That is an additional feature. Yeah. But even if you don't want that curtain inside, you should still go in for a DGO because it helps to maintain the temperature also, and it keeps the outside heat out.
Yeah.
And
so I also had a question regarding the window, sir. From whatever I know, the reason for the vacuum is to maintain the expansion of both the panes.
Glass does not expand and contract.
Outer window will get hot and inner window will remain.
Basically, that is the function of DGU. It is not expansion contraction.
Okay.
Basically, it locks the heat out and it locks the cold inside.
Okay.
So that it stops that radiation of heat from inside to outside, outside to inside. That is the purpose of DGU, which will not happen in your single glass window. Whatever you do, the glass is going to transmit the heat from outside.
Yes.
Okay. When you insert vacuum in between,
that is reduced.
There is a clear separation.
Yeah.
Outside is outside, inside is inside.
Yes.
Can we have like a UPVC fully sealed glass placed on the OT? 8 mm or 10 mm toughened glass sealed fully with UPVC frame.
UPVC is fine for the frame. Yeah. But double glass unit is what will separate the temperature. Single glass, whatever you do, is going to allow heat by radiation.
Yeah.
But any chance single glass in terms of air coming in, I think it's fully sealed. In terms of
the quality of the seal, sir. The quality of seal should be very good. But if you have a single glass, like sir says, your electrical cost will go up because you will need more continuous and more cooling.
Yeah.
So what you save on the glass, you may have to spend more on the electricity for cooling.
Yeah, and another common question I think many of us have is minimum size of OT for a single table OT, for a single table.
See, let me answer the other part of that question first.
Yeah.
No guidelines allow you to put more than one table in the OT.
Yeah.
Okay. So wherever you are doing it kind of illegally.
Yeah.
Now, coming back to NABA, JCI, all those guidelines, they will say 400 is the minimum. You should not go anywhere below it. 400 square feet. But realistically speaking, if you leave those guidelines aside and you want to compromise on space, I would still say the minimum should never go down below 250 square feet. Simple reason is you are placing your table in between. You have your huge microscope with its huge base sitting on the floor. You should be left with enough space on both sides of the table to have proper circulation.
Yeah.
See, your once in a lifetime episode where your patient crashes on your table. Maybe it is a reaction to local anesthetic. It is patient's comorbidities which is causing him to crash. Whatever may be the reason, you may have to shift that patient out on a trolley. If you make too small an OT, you cannot just bring the trolley inside.
Yeah. And I think the next comment doubt, yes.
I just wanted to add from the infection point of view. So as sir said, practically 400 square foot, 600 square foot practically is not possible in India. So when I used to think or what to tell surgeons, how much space. So what I, from infection point of view, what I have now tell is define how much sterile area you need first. Your table, your microscope, trolley, the area where you're going to stand or sit. How much is that space? That is going to be a sterile core. And around that, you may need some counters to keep the sterile drums or any supplies or anything, movement space. And beyond that, at least 1 foot. So calculate your sterile area, how much you're going to need, because this can vary from surgeon to surgeon, specialty to specialty also. We are at this segment like that. So calculate the sterile area, movement area outside that, minimum what you require. And then for things to remain sterile, there should be gap of at least 1 to 2 feet between the sterile zone and your walls. So storage and then the wall. So that is the minimum size you have to decide for your OT.
And
add to that equipment you are going to buy in future.
Yeah. Next 5 years.
And is this 400 square feet mandatory for a full NABH? Like if it's not 400, will we not get
full
NABH?
Yes.
Then I think majority of the eye hospitals may not be able to get a full NABH.
Unfortunately, we are still following Western guidelines. So we have not done an Indian study on this.
Yes.
We don't have.
I mean, I have been telling NABH also that they should rework some of the guidelines, but they are not yet done. So we are stuck with what we have.
Yeah.
So the next is we have a lot of questions on the AC, like what is the best AC, like split or cassette, and provided if you are not able to go for an air handling unit.
Let me say this here first before we go over to the actual question. We can now the technology is available with us where we can have a plenum of 175 mm. That is less than 6 inches. Okay. So even if you have a normal 10 feet or a 9 feet high room, we can still give you a proper AHU with laminar airflow. So that technology is available now. Okay, now that is one part. Now, despite of all of this, you still do not want to go for it for other reasons. Then my suggestion is cassette with a TFA or treated fresh air unit. At least that will be much better than your split AC for two reasons. One is split AC is 100% recirculation of air, no fresh air can be added. Cassette has that capability. So that is where your TFA comes in. What we do is TFA unit is mounted outside and treated fresh air from that unit is attached to the fresh air port of your cassettes.
Okay.
So this is where we can give you at least some semblance of clean air. Not ideal, it will fail all your ISO classes. Basically what you will get is ISO 10. That is room air. Okay. No measurables in terms of ISO 5, ISO 8, no nothing.
Yeah, it won't be compared to standard HEPA system.
No.
Yeah.
Because there is no HEPA.
Yeah. So that air I would just add should not pass over the surgical site.
Yes.
So location of your cassette
how
will become
expensive
important.
will it be compared to a regular cassette AC, the cassette with the treated air unit?
Not very expensive because your standard cassette plus an additional TFA unit. Now what we do is, since we already have a cassette with its compressor outside, TFA units are also available in two types. One is with cooling and one is without cooling. So what we suggest is to go in for TFA unit without cooling. So that brings your cost down.
Sir, is there a UV in the system?
No.
Can it be added?
Not in the system.
I mean, where the fresh air comes in, then can we pass it over a UV?
No, no, there is no. See, these systems are not customizable, unfortunately.
Okay. No, thodi risk.
Suppose I have
these
seen
are
in
comfort cooling. These are all comfort cooling units.
Yeah, but then the infection risk will be little bit.
No, then we have to have UV tubelets inside the OT.
Yeah. Because if you are going to put air into the OT, then I would prefer it to have disinfected in
So
some.
I have seen in some hospitals where one OT has split ACs and another OT is fully modular with the air handling units and everything. So does when they apply for a full NABH, what happens in that scenario?
They will get full NABH. What they usually do, yes, what they will do is they will show the second OT as some procedure room, or they will not show it as an OT. They will show it as a minor OT or something like that.
Septic OT.
Okay.
Septic OT.
Okay. And along with this, like how to maintain the humidity in the AHU? The OT, I think it's not the AHU. And is there any requirement for separate humidifier?
The problem is when you are using a comfort cooling unit inside the OT. Now, comfort cooling units do not have the capability of any type of controlling humidity. You just cannot control it. You can't even measure it. Even when you go in for low cost AHUs, even they will not have humidity control. What they will have is humidity removal. Now, humidity removal is the function of the condensing unit of your AHU, where once you achieve an ADP of say 5 degrees or -2 degrees, this is where it will start actively removing condensation. Okay, and that water you see flowing out from below the edge. Okay, now, but if your season is dry, then these units are incapable of adding humidity. So humidity control and humidity removal are two separate functions. And what you require is humidity control, because you want the humidity to be, your RS to be 55% throughout the year.
Yeah, and yeah.
Just wanted to add here, from infection point of view, humidity above 60 is risky because that promotes settling down of the particles. Along with that, bacteria will settle down. And if you go below 30, it becomes too dry. Then you have static electricity problem. Okay.
Yes.
So 50 to 55 is the ideal. In our Indian scenario, I think in places where there is a lot of rain and climate is usually more humid, I think we need a dehumidifier with separate portable units which are available. Those can not in the laminar flow. In OTs which do not have a laminar flow AHU system, they can go in for dehumidified units.
But then again, they should also add a humidity measurement unit.
Yeah, that has to be there. The temperature, humidity, we get simple, not very costly digital units also, which you can get buy on Amazon also nowadays. Okay, so that can be used in the OT to monitor, take the readings every day.
Yeah.
And that is
there is one question. There is one question on whether this 400 square feet area is only the main OT or including the scrub area. I think what we have discussed
only carpet area of the OT. Carpet area of the OT.
Only main OT.
Yeah.
Scrub is never inside the OT.
Yeah, I understand. So, okay, so we will go on to, there are lots of questions about the autoclave. So maybe we can take them one by one. So the first thing is, so do we need a class B autoclave
for
ophthalmology?
We definitely need, because you have a lot of hollow items, tubings. So for sterilizing these items, class B is definitely superior.
Yeah. There is one more aspect. If you are going in for accreditation, then the kind of documentation which you require from the autoclave is possible only with class B, never with class N.
Printing and printouts.
Printing, printouts, attaching PLC, none of that is possible with
vertical machines.
Yes, vertical machines.
So which cycle is best for instrument, linen, tubing, sandpiece? 121 degrees or 134 degrees? I think he's asked for which is best for instruments and tubing, sandpiece, and which is good for linen. 121 or 134?
As far as sterilization is concerned, both cycles will give you sterilization. So it depends on other factors. How much time and how long do you want your instrument to last? And the quality of the steel that you have purchased. Okay. So higher temperatures, 134 is what we call as high temperature short time cycles. So generally they are made to reduce the time. Okay, so we have 134 for 4.5 minutes like that, whereas 120 minutes for a longer. So it is not proved, but when you reduce the time and go to a high temperature cycle, something may remain back on the instruments, and that is a probability in our country because we don't have proper CSSDs, where recontamination is prevented after you clean the instruments. Okay, so for India, I would suggest 121 is a better cycle for proper sterilization. Plus, that temperature will make our instruments last longer. 134, there is a lot of contraction expansion. Your sharp instruments may get damaged earlier. Okay.
And can a class B autoclave be placed inside the OT?
No.
Depends on the heat load, sir. Because some portable ones, they do place inside the
OT. What does the questioner mean by inside the OT? Inside the OT meaning inside the surgical area? No.
Surgical area.
OT room they mean, sir. OT room they are saying.
No, I think his question is inside the surgical area.
No.
The carpet
ideally
area
it should be outside.
Yeah. So meaning it can be kept near the scrub or outside the main OT, it can be kept.
No. For sterilization, you should have a separate room, at least a room, not the passage.
See, we have to understand the concept of one is CSSD and the other one is emergency sterilization, which is required within the OT complex. Now, when we talk about the OT complex, generally instead of a full cycle sterilizer, we usually use flash sterilizers. Usually required when either you have forgotten to take certain instrument or it falls down while you are operating and you still need it later on. So those are the instruments which get flash sterilized. And that should be located in an adjacent room or within the semi-sterile zone outside the OT. Your CSSD can either be a part of the OT complex or it can be a separate unit. That is not an issue.
So one basic important thing I want to just clear here. I come across a lot of confusion in people's minds regarding the word flash sterilization. Many people think it's a machine where I put the instruments and get it back in about 15-20 minutes. Okay, it is not a machine. Flash is the name of a cycle of sterilization in which we have a high temperature, short time, there is no drying, and the item is not wrapped. It is open or kept on a tray in the autoclave chamber. So that is a flash. So what most people are referring to actually is rapid sterilizers. Okay, portable ones you keep on a trolley, they have 30-minute cycles, small chambers. So I would prefer we use the word rapid sterilizer instead of a proper flash.
Generally, these machines will have only one cycle, which is the flash cycle.
Now we get portable now with multiple cycles.
Yeah, no, the tabletop ones are regular ones, which most of the ophthalmologists are using.
Yeah.
The tabletop sterilizers.
Yeah.
So I always make that distinction between a flash sterilizer and a tabletop sterilizer.
Yes. Tabletop is a rapid sterilizer because of the small volume. Heating, cooling, everything happens faster. That's all.
Yeah, that's all. But the contact time of the steam is like your regular class B sterilizer itself.
Yes, yes.
So I think another common doubt which we have is, for how long are autoclaved instruments kept in a drum considered sterile? Can we do the autoclaving on Saturday and use the equipments on Monday?
Okay. Migyu Sara? Okay. Once you sterilize anything, okay, the maintenance of sterility depends on few things. What is the quality of the container in which you have placed it? What is the wrapping of the container? How you are handling it, transporting it, and where you are storing it. So as long as no liquids and air go in and out of the container, and you are keeping it protected from that, then the things inside that container are going to remain sterile. Okay. So this is what we call as event-related sterility. Unless that event of opening the container happens, the things inside will remain sterile. So you can autoclave on Saturday, keep it properly or till Monday and use it on Monday also. That is why we have a expiry period. Okay. Now, despite things remaining sterile, even in a proper wrapped container also, some things can go wrong. Accidents can happen. So that is why we need to put a time limit. Okay. So that is why we have expiry periods. So every tray, every drum should have an expiry period based on these factors. What is the sealing quality of that material or that container? If the drum is good quality, then you can give a longer shelf life. If you find the ring doesn't fit properly, some air can go inside, don't give a long shelf life. So it depends on the quality of the container first. If you are using trays or anything, like most of the Ophthall sets, which I see, they have openings for the steam, but we cannot close the openings. So if you're going to leave the openings of the set box open and put them just in a drum, then there is virtually no shelf life. As soon as you open the drum, outside air goes into your set, they become unsterile. Okay. So if you're wrapping them with paper, SMS paper or any double layers which can prevent the air from going inside, then you can give a long shelf life. Okay. Eto pouches, for example, they have a good seal. They will not allow air or microbes to pass through the paper or the plastic once they become dry after sterilization. So that is given long shelf life, like 1 year or more even sometimes. Okay. So you have to have proper containers, wrap them correctly, store them properly, and then you can have a long shelf life. So does that answer?
I think with the sealing machines are now coming at a very low cost.
Now what the rolls which you are getting for ETO can be used for steam as well.
Yes.
And they have dual indicators on it, the color indicators.
Yes.
So if your sealing machines are good, then even the steam sterilized material can also be stored for a very long time.
Yeah, I routinely tell hospitals to give straight 1 year shelf life for that. If the steam is good,
and even the pouches are not very expensive. I think definitely everybody should move on from
the only problem with surgical instruments being placed in those pouches is that the sharp points can tear the pouches, and generally that goes unnoticed. So if you are going to put sharp instruments in those pouches, then you should try to cover the sharp tips with something blunt, maybe
tubings.
Actually, we have this
or
sprays.
some caps.
Actually, we put them in the sprays. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. We put them in the trays. Yeah.
So Ophthall sets, boxes are quite small. You have ETO pouches big enough to hold the entire box also.
Yes.
So you can put the box in an ETO pouch, either ETO or autoclave it, whatever. Straight away you have a shelf life of 1 year. So for operation theaters where the load is less, say you operate just 2 times a week or once a week, this is a good option. Otherwise, you have to autoclave frequently. Okay. For high load areas where you have big institutes, lot of surgeries happening, say 150 every day, their autoclaving is better. And those instruments which are used less frequently, they can be pouched into ETO pouches, autoclaved and kept. Okay. So frequent re-autoclaving also should be minimized to extend the life of the instrument.
So I think there is, we are all used to having these drums. So there is a lot of questions. So most
of the drums are broken.
Most of the drums are broken, but as Indians, we don't want to let go of our drums. So so there are like, is it okay to keep?
There are some practical difficulties to letting go of drums, which I see in hospitals. If you want to let go of drums, you have to have a pre-vacuum sterilizer. Yes. Because if you don't want drums, you have to use paper, right? Either SMS paper or crepe paper. I've even used newspaper also in some hospitals for wrapping the sets. Okay. But paper has to become dry at the end of the cycle. That can happen only if the hospital has a pre-vacuum sterilizer. So first requirement is you should have a pre-vacuum machine to let go of the drums. Second thing is cost. Drums are usable, paper is not. Okay. So all these, if these things fall into place, then that hospital will be able to let go of the drums. Okay. So these are the practical issues I find.
Yeah. So basically drums are not recommended, but there is another question about where to get the rust-free drums. My drums are catching rust every 6 months. Couldn't find a vendor who provides the rust-free drum materials.
You will have to hunt for those vendors.
Yeah.
They are there. They are available.
2-3 points here. Quality of the steel made used for the drums. That is important, because you are going to wet them, right? They are going to become wet. So if the quality is not good, repeated wetting also will be an issue. Second thing, what is the quality of the water that the hospital is using for autoclaving? If there is a lot of hardness, if they're using bore water, then definitely even a good quality drum will start rusting very soon. Even instruments will start rusting very soon. So quality of water matters. Third thing is whether the drum has any residual water at the end of the sterilization. If that is happening, what we call as a wet load, that also can lead to a rusting problem if the drum quality is not good. So the drum should be dry inside after the sterilization. If that is not happening, they have to review the machine and how they're packing the drums. So these 2-3 things I think they can look into, and then we may solve it.
SS316 is better at lower rusting. Not SS304. SS304 can rust if it is exposed to water frequently. And then the second aspect is thickness of the drum. Okay. And then, as sir said, your packing technique. If you pack your drums too much, then condensation will be a big issue. And if you see condensation, you can safely assume that your sterilization has not been adequate.
And water quality, sir.
Yeah, of course.
Because many times,
of course.
Drinking water is scarce in many places. They will go for bore water most of the places.
Yes.
Another, getting back to the OT design, another common question which many of us have is, like when we are building the OT, but we are not planning to have the AHU immediately, can we leave the duct and make everything ready so that the AHU can be added in the later?
Yes, we can. In fact, we would certainly recommend doing that. Plan the civil structure in such a way that you can just add the AHU with minimal downtime.
That should be
So what how do we plan? Like suppose we are planning a stainless steel ceiling. So do you mean the gap in the ceiling like a 2.5 feet so the duct can be added? Or
Yes.
do you want the duct everything to be put now itself and then
that is one option. Or what we do is we do all the calculations of duct sizing, and then we leave cutouts for the duct in the walls at the time of the construction itself. Temporarily close it from both sides, inside as well as outside, and then do your false. See, generally, if you are going to put cassette instead of your plenum, initially, you would probably end up changing your false ceiling once you do your HA.
So if you're not going for a cassette, so the false ceiling, let's say we are planning a stainless steel false ceiling.
You see, generally you would not do that. You would probably end up doing an Armstrong steel plates ceiling, which anyway is not compatible with your HO, meaning your laminar airflow plan. So once you do that, those things would get changed anyway.
Because I am working with one hospital where the roofing is going to be stainless steel, but not planning to have the AH immediately. So what are all the things which they should do? Like the gap between the roof and the stainless steel false ceiling should be 2.5 feet, and then you make the opening.
That is possible only if 2.5 feet is possible only if they have a true height of 13 feet. Without that, you cannot put the.
No, the height is this particular hospital. The height is there around 12.5 feet is the clear height. So the ceiling, false ceiling, and the roof height should be 2 feet, sir. What should be the gap should be left between the stainless steel false ceiling and the roof?
See, you should aim to have a minimum of 9.5 feet below the false ceiling.
1.5 feet.
9.5 feet below the
9.5 below. Okay.
Below the
no. What I meant was false ceiling and the actual ceiling. What should be the gap?
Above the false ceiling,
see, that is what I am trying to say. That whatever height you have, if you put a false ceiling at 9.5 feet, whatever area is available, remaining you leave it above.
Right. So basically around 2 to 2.5 feet above the false ceiling.
So generally what I would suggest is every theater will have a different design. It won't be 2.5 feet for all theaters because it depends on the original height of the building, the beam placement, and a lot of things. So every theater should have a design made. The theater can study the OT, place, location, make a design that will clarify a lot of things. How much space you need, where the duct will come in, where the duct will go out, and everything. So they can just take the plan, leave the space and everything, and then install at a later date. But it won't be standard for all rooms.
See,
but anyway,
Dr. Senthil, this is what we actually did at one of the hospitals where we did a renovation. Is we planned the entire system, including what plenum is going to go and things like that, and did not order the plenum and the HO.
That's what I'm saying. So you plan in full detail.
Yes, the details have to be planned. Engage the vendor. Do the entire planning, do the duct cutouts also in the walls.
Yes.
And then just seal them.
Yeah. So I think maybe because we three are only talking it, we can open it up a little bit to the audience.
I hope everybody is listening.
So I don't know whether it's like so the audience, you can come out and if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask.
Dr. Senthil, if there are some questions in the chats, just check them so that we can answer them.
Yeah. So one question, the latest one is shelf life of ETO and autoclave. Is it the same?
I think we've answered that.
Yeah. Just to clarify, ETO will be longer than autoclave.
Another question, I think.
So there's I think so we missed some questions before that also.
Yeah. After fumigation, I think there are lots of questions on fumigation also. We'll take it up together. So maybe I want some of the audience to come out and speak so that we are sure that we are having some audience. So please unmute and go ahead and ask a question if you have any questions. Okay, so maybe everybody, I don't know, everybody is seriously listening or I don't know. Any questions from the audience? Please go ahead and ask.
Hello, sir. Myself, Dr. Chetan from Pune. Sir,
Yes, sir.
I want to ask about the walls and ceiling of the OT. So, according to the price, can you sequentially grade like this is higher costing to lower costing, considering the vinyl, epoxy, and stainless steel cladding and these kind of things. So, according to cost, can you sequentially put it from higher cost to lower cost?
Korean and tempered glass would cost you the highest. Your SS and HGPVC panels will be somewhere in the middle, and your HGPVC wall cladding will be cheaper. Below that would be your vitrified tiles. See, if you are thinking of epoxy paint, I would say going for vitrified tiles.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there is one question related. Apart from epoxy PU paint, which other paint can be used in the OT which is affordable and easily available?
None. No other paint.
So it's either epoxy or PU.
Or tiles.
Better. See, whatever you do, however good contractor you get, your paint life is 1 year, 1 to 1.5 years. After that, you have to reapply. So then you add the cost of the paint, and from the second year onwards, you also add the cost of downtime. Okay, so instead of doing all that, it is better than you go for tiles.
Another question related is how to create anti-static flooring in the operation theater. Is it copper tape advisable to use before?
We answered that.
Yeah. So some questions on fogging, whether bacilloid can be used as a disinfectant by spraying as a fine fog by sprayer in the OT.
Yes, it can be used.
Bacillol, yeah, and frequency of fog.
Hello, not bacillol, bacillocid special. Yeah. Bacillol 25 is basically plain spirit. It is 70% ethyl alcohol.
Yes.
So that should not be used for fogging or spraying. In fact, that product itself is completely wrong. Okay. So for fumigation, for fogging, for OT, wiping, everything, you can use bacillocid special.
Bacillol is actually only for electronic instruments, where you cannot use any water-based disinfectant.
It's very misused, sir, because I find OT is using it for OT tables and large surfaces.
Yes.
And it is highly inflammable also.
Yes.
So for an OT, actually, the only thing you need is bacillocid special and a good quality liquid soap. That is all.
Again, what they should be using is submicron foggers.
Less than 5 microns.
Yes. Submicron foggers are the best because then the amount of water that you are using reduces drastically.
Yeah.
Secondly, bacillocid has a tendency of leaving behind a residue.
It does, sir, actually. It is beneficial. So what I
No, but it is a sticky residue, and the wheels of instrument trolleys and tables get jammed.
No, what I do, sir, the percentage recommended by the company is wrong, basically. For critical areas, they say 2%. And generally, for a theater, we use if you use 2% for more than once a day, it is going to definitely leave white patches and get not very sticky. So what I do is in my hospitals, I reduce it to 7 ml per liter, even for the OT. That is 0.7%. You only for wiping and fogging. So if you apply it 3-4 times also, it doesn't make a stickiness. It gives mild stickiness, which is actually useful in ophthalm because there is a lot of traffic in ophthalm, especially cataract surgery. Every 10-15 minutes, door opening, patient going in, patient coming out. So all this movement, it creates a lot of airborne dust. So this bacillocide will make a mild sticky layer on the floor, on the various surfaces. Anything that settles down will not get airborne easily again. That is a very big advantage, which even the company does not know. So I use bacillocide in
Actually,
most of my...
I had a very kind of a bad experience with bacillocid, where in our transplant OT we could not get rid of Pseudomonas. That is when I switched over to hydrogen peroxide and silver nitrate solution.
No. Something else may be the reason, sir. Because
no, the company people came and did it. The company people came and did it. When I complained, they came and did it, and they only took the. They only engaged the microbiologists. They did a swab collection, test, and everything, and it came back positive.
Okay, because I'm using bacillocid since last 20 years across more than 60-80 theaters. No problems.
And since they only did everything and they came back with a positive swab, then they didn't bother me.
Details, we need more details to see what it was. So common will be water. Pseudomonas is a water-loving organism.
Yes.
So there must be some connection with water supply. How it is used and where it comes from.
I think when they came in, they used sterile water.
Sterile water for cleaning the OT, very costly, sir. I made it.
No. But then त्यांना prove करायचं होतं ना.
Because hydrogen peroxide is also equally good for bactericidal activity, but it is very costly. If you look, take the cost per fumigation, then these products having hydrogen peroxide with silver ions, they are 10 times costlier than bacillocid.
Yeah, but then you are using 0.5%.
I'm using 0.7.
No. For hydrogen peroxide silver nitrate, you are using 0.5%.
No, sir. It is 20%.
No, 2% for heavy load, like you've done an infected case and there is heavy contamination, you use 2%. For routine fogging, they say 0.5 to 1%. And for mopping of floors and walls, it is 0.5%. But I have seen that even with 0.5%.
In the original product, we have to see
then
what
that is
concentration.
High. Because the original product comes concentrated.
We need to see how much H2O2 is there, because is it Enmodil?
Yeah.
Enmodil is standard. They use 200 ml per liter, sir. Enmodil. You can check the label. 200 ml every liter. So 800 ml water, 200 ml of Enmodil.
Yeah.
So that works out to 20% actually.
Actually,
200 ml plus 800 ml is 1000 ml. So 20% concentration is required. That's why it is costly. It comes in a 1 liter can. So the MRP printed on the can looks small compared to 5 liter can of bacillocid. But per fumigation, you have to use 200 ml of Enmodil per liter.
Their bigger cans are cheaper. It comes in bigger cans also.
Yeah, but you can just do the costing according to the dilution and then cross check. And for bacillocid, I go by 7 ml per liter. That is enough.
There is one comment: bacillocid leaves rusting on metal instruments.
Yes.
In that case, I would just advise them to check how it is exactly being used. So if they are using fogging, then how much to fog? That depends on the volume of the room. And after fogging, the theater should be dry in about 2-3 hours. If they are finding water in the morning when they're opening the theater, then something is definitely wrong. There is excessive moisture, humidity, and that may be one of the reasons for rusting. Because bacillocid is basically glutaraldehyde and formaldehyde combination, plus some other chemicals, which have very good compatibility with all the materials we use in the OT. So glutaraldehyde will not cause rusting. That's the same chemical in Sidex, in which we dip our scopes and everything. So rusting is due to the water remaining there.
There is one question, I think one of the first questions. whether it's recommended, how to make formalin chamber and what all can be kept in it. So I think
Nothing.
nobody
Not
advises a
recommended.
Don't
Not
use
recommended.
formalin chamber. No, it is not a reliable way of disinfection, because
Yeah.
the chemical which you use, formalin, it is a gas. We put formalin tablets in that, right? Every
Yeah.
batch of tablets will come with a different concentration. It's not written on the label also. Every chemical requires a minimum concentration, contact time, and all those things. So those factors are not provided in the formalin chamber. Plus, formalin requires 70% humidity for proper bactericidal action. Again, that we cannot put in the formalin chamber. So best is not to use it at all. Whatever you keep in the formalin chamber, you can either ETO sterilize it or autoclave sterilize it, put it in ETO pouches if you want a long shelf life. That's a better option.
Before we open it up to the
Sir, I wanted to.
audience, so
Hello.
yes, sir.
Yes, I wanted to ask if we are going for full NABH accreditation. In the OT, there are some windows created for instrument transfer, single window. Is it
Pass boxes.
necessary?
Pass
Is it
box,
necessary
yes.
for NABH?
No, not necessary. What are you using those pass boxes for? That is an important question that you need to answer. Secondly, if you are going to use pass boxes for sterile transfer, in which case there is a pass box which has a UV tube inside. That is the one which should be used.
Okay.
And interlocking doors.
But it's
and
not
interlocking doors.
It's not mandatory.
No, it's not mandatory. See, it depends on what protocols you are setting for your OT and how your sterile equipments are going to come inside. Once you say that they are not going to come through your main door, they are going to come directly from your sterile store to the OT, in which case you will have to show a pass box between your sterile store and your OT.
And basically in uptime anterior segment, the door gets opened so frequently.
Yeah.
The concept of a pass box, I wonder how much it applies in uptime theater. There, we open the doors every 10-15 minutes.
Yes.
So we can as well transport it in a covered way through the door itself instead of making an opening in the OT wall.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, actually, this is a very common doubt which we have. Like many doctors are starting up their hospitals. So how do they actually, because the architect designs the floor plan and everything. So ideally, how do you design the OT? Like what is the process which has to be followed? Is it that, because many times the architect themselves gives the OT because he might have designed for some hospital. What is the ideal procedure which somebody has to follow to get the OT design?
In one word, zoning.
So it's a teamwork basically. So the owner will have to define what activities he will do in that area, what type of surgery, what is the expected load, how many staff will be there, what equipment he is going to have. So that defines the space, everything. Zoning, as sir will say, said, will decide the layout. Then it's a teamwork. If that person is going to have a modular OT, then that modular OT itself is a team. There is a person who fabricates it, the person who installs it, the person who designs the ventilation system. So it's basically teamwork between the architect, all of these people, and inputs from infection control in all of these things. So all these people together should be communicating with each other, and everybody should be on the same page during the entire designing process.
Dr. Senthil, the issue in India is that healthcare architecture is a master's level program. Okay, so a B-Arch architect has very, very little exposure to any healthcare design. That is the unfortunate reality in India. Okay, in their entire 4 years, they just have to do one project of a hospital design as a student, and that is all that is the exposure to their to healthcare. Okay, there is no syllabus per se for healthcare architecture. So the second best option is then to take help of people like us who have the experience as well as the qualifications to do the designing part. The architectural part, the architect would do, but the input as a part of the hospital design team, where the owner, a design consultant, or a health facility design person, and infection control. These should become, this should be part of your design team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is how a good layout will come about.
Yeah. So there are two reasons why we don't engage. Is one is because we don't have access to specialists like you, because generally we don't know to whom to approach. And many times what doctors do is they go to their friends, see how they have designed the OT or in the hospital where they are working. And then they try to give that inputs to the architect who will put everything like this should be the changing room, this should be the scrub area and everything.
That is the
Second thing is whenever we are always, there is an opinion that consultants are going to be very expensive. So which actually is not the true. So those are the two, because even see why doctors are afraid of air handling units is because we always think, oh, I may not be able to afford it. It's only for the rich ophthalmologists. So I think that mindset change also has to come.
No, one need not go always for the ideal. One can do what is best possible. But what I've seen is if you compromise on the design or get the design wrong, then there is a permanent risk factor for infection in your setup, which to cover up that, you have to adjust your practice or spend something more, and that becomes a part of your recurring cost, running cost, lifelong. So it is always better to spend more time on designing in detail, and then you build fast. Okay, so you'll be more comfortable. And secondly, this subject, basically infection control, design, this is never taught in any medical course. So every surgeon will not be able to be aware of this. So we are here to help. So if we make a team like us, then definitely it will benefit.
So maybe I think we have another 20 minutes left. We can open up to the audience. Audience, please go ahead and start asking your questions. And what is the rough cost of consultants for designing the OT? There is a question on the cost. I think what is the approximate cost for a consultant to design the OT along with the architect?
That will vary.
Like only the designing charges. Maybe he wants to have an approximate idea.
See, it usually, we don't have anything like fixed package. Okay, it depends on what our involvement is going to be. So each proposal is customized. So I can't really give you any figures here. But what I can surely tell you is by the end of the whole process, the consultant would have paid for himself. In terms of the cost savings, the avoidance of redo work, and your savings in your running costs. If you calculate all of that, your consultant comes at a throwaway price.
Yeah.
Not maybe to give an idea, because people might have and thinking that it's going to be very expensive. So consultant may be something like even 50,000 rupees is something where you can start.
I can't tell you, I can't put such figures because somewhere it might require more involvement. For some
not
places,
for everybody. It's not.
My involvement is limited only to infection control, right? So I think sir's involvement will be towards the entire project. So that is quite a lot from person to person. Whereas my will be mainly for infection control. So usually what I do is for a small hospital, it takes about 2-3 revisions of the plan. So I give suggestions, we discuss with the doctor, the architect all together. Then we make 2-3 drawings. So mine will be, say, one period's consultation, 2-3 consultations in a month. So I charge a limited amount for that, say anywhere between 10 to 15,000, depending on the size of the project. Okay. So that will be my infection control inputs only.
No, I understand, sir. My intention was to break that myth that the consultants are going to be very expensive. It doesn't mean that every hospital, like we cannot have a 100-bed eye hospital and ask the consultant to design. So just
by and large, your hospitals will not be more than 20 beds.
Yeah.
That's if it is a single owner Ophthal hospital, single owner.
Yeah.
If it is a group of ophthalmologists, then maybe you can build a parallel Arvindaya or something.
Yeah.
But if it is a single person, then it is usually roughly about 10 to 20 beds is the maximum that I have seen.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, it depends on what you are hiring the consultant for. If you're going to hire him right from concept to the commissioning of the hospital, then his involvement and his charges are going to be as per how much time he's going to spend on the project, what is going to be the duration of the project, and what all additional monitoring how the civil work is going on and things like that. So then that is how it goes on.
Yeah. Actually, what we are trying to do with Ophthal is if there are a volume of hospitals, let's say if there are 20, 30, 40 hospitals which want to do it together, then I think the cost can be shared, and individually also for the hospitals.
You see, let me tell you, this bulk packaging kind of thing doesn't work for the simple reason that again, geographically, it is going to be at different places. That is one. Secondly, the real estate which each one of you is going to buy is going to be of a different size. And then the kind of time that consultants spend on each of those projects is going to differ.
Basically, such things we deliver will be different for different hospitals.
Yes.
If you have the same product for all the hospitals, then the bulk thing works. Like suppose I'm selling
this
some
is
equipment.
more like a
customized. See, it is not like 50 people come to me, I make one plan and then give it to all 50 of you, and you're going to replicate each and every one. All 50 hospitals are going to use the same plan. Then it's a different issue.
Maybe we can do that for maybe NABH. We can try to do that for NABH. Maybe it's so.
NABH,
I think
yes.
Dr. Gaurav Gopal has a question. Dr. Gaurav,
yes, sir.
Please.
So thank you, sir. So actually, my question was like we were discussing about the way to keep our autoclaves. So there are horizontal autoclaves available which have 2 doors. So do you think it is a good option that we can place the autoclave in such a way that one door is say in the washing area and the other door opens up directly into the main theater?
No.
Not in the theater, sir. The other door has to open into a sterile storage room.
Okay.
So if you have the space to create all those rooms, basically CSSD will have a receipt and cleaning area, a drying area, then a packaging area, sterilizer area, and a storage area. So in ideal CSSD, all these are different work areas physically separated from each other. Okay. So if that space is available, then you can go for a 2-door, and from the loading you can do in the packing area and take out the things in a sterile store and keep it there.
Okay. So directly opening into the theater is not a good option.
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Sandil, can I ask a question? I'm Dr. Sirish here.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
I have 2 questions, one to Dr. Kulkarni and another to Dr. Chimote. The first question to Dr. Kulkarni. What is the role of plasma sterilizers? When we go to these conferences, there's a lot of push for the plasma sterilizers. Are they good, bad? What is it? Then the second question to Dr. Chimote. I have a HEPA filter OT with laminar flow. I think some discussion about high humidity was already done in the talk. I went through that, but I have a specific question. I have been facing humidity levels of around 80% and 90%, which are not getting sorted out. They have put heaters in the AHU. So they say that this is the only solution. Of course, I heard what you discussed, telling that in the OT we can have a dehumidifier. But is there something that can be done additionally in the AHU itself, where I can sort it out. Thank you.
So regarding plasma sterilization, it's a new technology developed by Johnson & Johnson and becoming more common, but it is very costly in India right now. So basic plasma sterilizer will start from 25-30 lakhs onwards. The advantages are it is a short time, doesn't take much time, doesn't need much of electricity, but there are many cons. The lumen penetration is still controversial. So certain lumens, like for example, the phaco tip lumen, I think should be less than 1 millimeter. Am I right? Hello? So small lumens or very long lumens, penetration is still controversial regarding the gas plasma. Okay. So that's why autoclaving is a better option. Traditional options are still better. Okay. Second thing, you need special packaging for the plasma sterilizer, what we call as Tyvek. Okay. You can't use routine drums, you can't use trays, you can't use anything like having cellulose. For example, anything that will absorb moisture cannot be used in the sterilizer. And the per cycle cost also will be more than autoclaving or ETO. So because of this, it is still better to go for autoclaving and ETO rather than go for plasma sterilizers right now. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Definitely, yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, about your second question, what I probably think is your problem is with the design of your AHU. That is why your humidity doesn't seem to be coming down. The first thing that comes to my mind is probably your condensing, the condenser coil design. The square foot area is very, very small, and the ADP which is achieved in your unit seems to be on the higher side. That is why your humidity is not getting removed, and heaters may not actually solve the problem. In fact, they might prove to be counterproductive.
So here, can we add even the amount of fresh air intake as one of the things?
Not really. Basically, it is the ADP issue.
If
Apparatus Dew Point.
if he's in a coastal area, then ambient humidity will be definitely more. So
see, there are two aspects which needs to be checked before. One is the static. Your modular theater, the laminar airflow system and the positive pressure system which we install requires a higher static, which is 125 centimeters of water. Now, if that static is not getting achieved, then your unit is not optimal enough to remove. The second aspect is usually your apparatus dew point, which has to be 5 degrees Celsius or lower. I usually ask for an ADP of -2. And what typically these AHU manufacturers do is they give room ADP of 5 degrees. Now there is a huge difference between room or RDP and EDP. And what we require is ADP, not RDP. We are not bothered about RDP. If you give 5 degrees Celsius RDP, then your ADP rises to about 15 degrees.
Okay.
And at 15 degrees or even at 10 degrees, it cannot remove humidity.
So any other questions from the
Sir, I
audience?
hope it answers your query at least partially.
Yes, sir. Actually, yeah. So we have just to give a back. I frankly do not know what is EDP, RDP. We struggled quite a lot. As Dr. Kulkarni said, fresh air also we allowed in, but that didn't help the problem. Heater didn't help. They put one heater, then they added it up to 2 heaters. Even that didn't help much.
What is the size of your OT?
It's about 1,000, roughly about 1,000 square feet. 800, between 900 square feet, I should say.
900 square feet. And height?
Yeah. Height is 13 feet. With
No. Below the false ceiling?
Below the false ceiling, about 8.5 to 9. 8.5, I suppose. 8 and 9 feet, probably.
9 feet. And how much tonnage have they applied to this size room?
I don't have the offhand number right now, sir.
But it is, let me tell you that your OT size is too large. Apparently, you have more than one table in the OT.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah, I have two
Sir,
tables in the OT, yes.
This 900 square feet
Are
is
you
the
sure it is
OT
900
carpet
square feet?
area or the full OT area, sir?
Carpet area, sir.
900 square feet carpet area means we are looking at something like 6,000 CFM. At least that's just, back of the envelope calculation. And 6,000 CFM with that volume of air, you are looking at 15 TR of cooling. I don't know how much they have given you.
Sir, I think 900 is only the OT room.
Yeah, it is only the OT room.
Yeah.
Big.
So 15
and even the HEPA filter, we have put it in such a way that it accommodates the two tables.
Very big OT, sir.
Very big OT.
Yeah,
and
yes.
I have a serious doubt that your air conditioner is undersized.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Would you be, I could take a consultation with you for this, and do you think you would be able to help me out there? Or because we can't change the AHU and all that, those are like one-time investments, and they're so heavy.
No, but if it is a wrong AHU, running it in this way is not going to help you in any way.
Okay.
If it is a wrong size, then it is a wrong size. A mistake has been made.
Okay. Yeah, I think the dehumidifier in the OT is the only solution, probably.
No, sir. Dehumidifier will be not in this system, because dehumidifier independent will work in the OT without this system. Here you have lot of volume of air circulating. So
and actually, this is not my only thing. In fact, I was in a conference where there was a similar seminar being held, and there were at least 3 or 4 other people who had a same problem. In fact, like I didn't ask this question, but somebody else asked this question, and there were like at least 3 other people who said even we have the same problem.
Sir, I think you need what sir mentioned in the past, this thing, that you need humidity control. So that I don't think it is there in the system, because what I've seen across hospitals, many people, they try to reduce the cost of the system, many of the manufacturers, by dropping this humidity control totally. So first question is whether it is any sort of humidity control is there in the system. If it is not there, then can it be installed? That I think Chimote sir will be able to tell.
No, maybe I think offhand, if the details of the AHU and the tonnage and everything is shared, I think Dr. Chimote can advise in a better way. So that's,
yes, I agree. Yeah.
Yes. And so after fogging, how to prevent a wet floor in the OT? Switching on the AC when and for how long? After fogging, how to prevent a wet floor?
Basically, don't fog too much. Quantity, I think you have to check the quantity according to the volume. And after fogging, even without the AC also, the floors and everything, surfaces should be dry after 2 to 3 hours. If that is not happening, then you can gradually reduce the quantity of water. Keep the quantity of the disinfectant the same. Don't reduce that. Just reduce the quantity of the water that you're adding. Okay. So it's a bit of a trial and error method, but by gradually reducing, you'll come to a point where surfaces will become dry after 2 to 3 hours. Okay.
And the second problem usually is the droplet size.
Yeah.
If your droplet size is big, then you will have water condensation, whatever you do.
Yes.
So you have to check whether it is a submicron fogger, which throws only a mist, and that mist kind of envelops the entire OT.
Yeah.
And after some time, the mist just disappears. It hardly forms a very, very thin kind of wetness on your walls and ceilings, and that dries off.
Yeah.
So actually, Dr. Mayur has a doubt of what is the difference between fumigation and fogging and ideal solution for fogging concentration.
First, let me tell about fumigation. Now, fumigation is a very old concept. Nowadays, people don't fumigate actually in the Western countries, but we continue doing so, okay? For Indian conditions, okay, we need it because we don't have the other OT disciplines in many of the places. Now, some basic concepts about fumigation, it is not sterilization. It is what we call as terminal disinfection. So even after a proper fumigation, bacteria will still be found in the OT, although there will be less, okay? Now, fogging is one of the methods of applying a disinfectant to all surfaces of the OT room. That's all it is. Okay. So normally we'll find in the CDC guidelines that fogging should not be done in patient care areas. That's the wording. So what I say there is we have to do fogging as a method of application. It's not a method of fumigation. Okay. You can use different chemicals in a fogger. So it is just a method of application. So that's the difference. Fumigation is actually disinfecting the OT, and fogging is one of the methods of doing that. That is the difference between the two.
Is the thought on only mopping the floors and walls, which is practiced in some places?
Yeah, that also is there. Surface disinfection is more important. Fogging will also help you disinfect the air to a certain extent, which is important in OTs which do not have HEPA filter systems. Okay. So if you have a HEPA laminar flow HEPA filter system, whether it's laminar or not conventional, but if you have HEPA filter systems, then you can stop fumigation provided your OT cleaning protocols are perfect, your OT discipline is perfect. Okay. So if these two things are in place, only then I usually advise stopping fumigation. Otherwise, in India, we still need to continue because many places, periphery especially, there are untrained OT staff. The hygiene of our patients is not correct. Many ophthalmic theaters I see they don't change the patient into the OT dress. They just put a gown and take the patient inside. So all these things become a bio burden. So we need to continue fumigation in some theaters in India. So it will vary from theater to theater whether my recommendation will be to fog or not to fog.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Maybe you mentioned about microfoggers. Which are the commercially available ones? Any brand? I think he's asking about the brand name or some models available.
Microscan is one. अजून आहेत ना सर ब्रँड बाकी
फॉगर्स इंडियाचे आहेत.
Okay.
Even
so,
the companies
yeah,
which provide the chemicals like Envodil and Bastoside, no, they also have many companies which provide foggers. So any company go for, like sir said, go check the specifications.
Okay. Actually, this if not bacillol, just give me 1 minute. Doctor, can you come and ask a question about the surface? I'm not able to get that question. No. What are air sampling methods other than plate settle method?
I think that was covered in the original questions.
Air sampling machines.
Okay. So I think we just have another 5 minutes left. Maybe if we can have some suggestions from the participants who have attended and also your view about the program today, and then how do we take it forward? Because we don't want to be like our WhatsApp group is there, which we developed into where we are having an interaction directly with the experts. Now, the overall idea of Ophthall is to improve the practice of the individual ophthalmologist. So by getting in the experts, and how do you practice in it? Because we see a lot of doctors who are practicing in remote areas and with not too much of interaction. So how do we actually take it forward to the next level, and your views about this? And once we hear from one or two of you, then we can close the session. I think Dr. Saurabh Agarwal has a question or some suggestion. Dr. Saurabh, you can speak.
Yes, so the same question. I have been using Bacillol 25 spray for the disinfection, surface disinfection of trolley, OT table, and the microscope. So if not Bacillol 25 spray, then what other thing that I can use and in what concentration that has to be used for surface disinfection?
So for surface disinfection, you can use Bacillocid Special in the dilution of 7 ml per liter.
Okay.
You can use it to wipe the equipment on the outer surfaces. Don't apply it to any screens, display screens. Okay.
Okay.
And Bacillol 25, we can actually stop. In fact, when you spray alcohol, half of it gets wasted in the air. And contact period for the Bacillol 25, according to the label, is 30 seconds. So when I spray alcohol, basically spray it on a surface and leave it for 30 seconds open, it definitely concentration is going to fall. And so there is not going to be much of disinfection, right? So it's a very wrong product, which is meant to, it is meant only for small surfaces like thermometers, cleaning ambu bags. For that, it is okay. But don't use it for trolleys or tables or microscopes.
So Bacillocid Special can be used as a wipe.
Yeah. As a wiping. Yeah. For every surface, for every equipment, you can use Bacillocid for a wiping. So you put it on a mop and then wipe in one direction with it. And after wiping, make sure that the surface remains wet with that solution for about a minute for bactericidal action. If it dries immediately, then we don't get much of bactericidal action.
For fogger also, I am using the same solution.
Yeah, same, yes. That's why I said Bacillocid and soap. These are the only two things for a OT. You don't usually need anything else.
Thank you so much.
So your take on ozone generator and UV lights in the OT?
Not a validated technology as yet, sir. Even closed ozone sterilizers like autoclaves, they are being developed in the West, but still they are not in the general use. So we still not of studies on that. There are some people who have come out with ozone machines for OT fumigation. But again, they do OT swabs and everything. But as I said in the beginning, sensitivity of an OT swab is very less. So a negative swab doesn't mean that there is nothing in the OT. But it creates a false impression that the ozone is working. So I would still go by the traditional methods, which are time tested and proved.
I think, yeah, we have been able to cover all the questions, almost everything.
I think some are left, sir.
In the WhatsApp. Yeah. And so this is going to be a continuing dialogue. I don't think we can do justice for the full topics because these are, as Dr. Chimote said, it's a curriculum for architecture where they have to study only on healthcare infrastructure, and so it's a huge topic. Maybe there should be multiple books written on these. So but what we are trying to do is at least some basic questions, doubts which we have in our minds every day. I think some of them got cleared, and thank you, Dr. Chimote and Dr.
I would just add is don't shy away from hiring the right people for your project. Yeah. Because you know, any consultant by the end of the project would have paid for himself in terms of what savings he brings to the entire project. Okay.
Yeah.
So in fact, it almost comes free if you look at the bigger picture.
In ophthalmology, the cost of an infection is very high.
Yeah.
Medical.
See, and we spend a lot of money on the equipment. See, some of the machines are costing 20-30 lakh rupees. It's always better to have good guidance and support from experts. I think I'm also of that view.
It's not only the financial angle, it's the medical legal angle, the media angle, a lot of things in ophthalm to prevent infections. So one case is enough to destroy a career also.
Yeah.
So if you look at that cost, it is too big. So we should do everything to prevent that.
Yeah.
I hope
so
was practically useful.
Yeah, it was very useful, and thank you, Dr. Kulkarni sir and Dr. Chimote for spending your valuable time. I think last 1 week you have been spending more time on the WhatsApp only. So the questions have started to dry up now, because even in the night 12 o'clock there were questions coming in, and so we have a lot of doctors who are benefited by these initiatives, and Ophthall always tries to help the individual ophthalmologist to practice in a better way. That's the goal of our organization also. And we have grown to be a 2,500 member organization. So we have almost 2,900 ophthalmologists who are part of our Ophthall group all over India. So, and I'm sure these initiatives are helping individual ophthalmologists. And thank you everybody for joining on a Sunday. I think instead of going out so please post your feedback about the session on the WhatsApp group also, because that is what will motivate us to continue going. And so if you need any other support, please do get in touch. And both the speakers are on our WhatsApp group. You may also contact them directly if you require any support from them. But see, both of them are very busy people also. Please don't call them in the middle of the night or anything, because they are also having their own assignments, and please get their permission and connect to them. Ophthall is actually trying to work out with Dr. We are already working with Dr. Chimote also. So where we are trying to get some more structuralized programs for infection control, or maybe even staff training programs and for NABH and all these things. Yeah. So we'll be sure soon sharing those details to you over the next week. And thank you everybody, and have a good night, and let the discussion continue on the groups. And hopefully we'll all meet in the next Ophthall conference planned in Hyderabad. In Hyderabad, we are planning a large conference next year in 2023. And we are planning to have an NABH session soon, where something similar to this. And we can repeat this infection control and OT design session maybe after 2 or 3 months also. And let's come out with a plan program for training the staff. I think that is more important thing. Staff is who are actually executing things. If we can train them better, I think a lot of the infection control processes will become better. So I think that is another. In fact, we were planning.
Can be done online also nowadays.
Yeah, we can do an online program. So please share your feedback on the WhatsApp group, and thank you everybody, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.